Good morning.
Morning, Razor.
I just want to check on a couple of players from Saturday. Firstly, Sven Botman. I know you spoke about him after the game, but that was a lot to get through after so long out. Have you had a chance to assess him since Saturday, and how is he?
Yeah, he feels good. Naturally, a little bit of fatigue at the end of the game. I think with Sven, yes, it was a long absence, but he's trained for a long, long time for this moment. And from the Aston Villa game onwards, he was cleared to play. But we wanted to give him longer to try and reach his best physical levels. So it's not like he's been rushed back. But straight into action, did very well. Really pleased with him. I think regardless of how you train and what you do, Premier League is different to anything else, and you can't really prepare for that intensity that comes. But he handled it really well.
You've got a lot of midweek football this month, including tomorrow in the semi-finals of the League Cup. With a player like Sven Botman, do you have to phase him back, or do you feel he's ready just to play regularly now if you choose that?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of things. I think we have to speak to the player, we have to speak to the medical team and the experts that will give me the some of the answers to what we do with him next. But I think Sven's a competitor. He is hugely driven for the team and for himself. Wants to do really well in his career. So I've got no doubts what he will say, but we need to, as I say, speak to other people and then try and come up with the right decision.
And how is Anthony Gordon doing after sustaining that quite nasty facial injury in the second half?
Yeah, Anthony was in a bit of discomfort, I'd say, only with the cut, which was a nasty-looking one. Looking back at the decision, I thought it was a foul. I thought it was a clear penalty. And he came away from that incident, as I say, with blood on himself. So we dusted him down. He went back on the pitch and performed really well for us. I thought he had a really good game. So we'll see how he is today.
Once again, you won't have Fabian Schär available because of suspension, but also against Arsenal in this first leg there'll be no Bruno either because of a one-match ban in the League Cup. How big a blow is it to lose your captain, particularly with the form that he has been in recently? Yeah,
it's a big blow. I think Bruno, one of his biggest strengths is he's always there for you. His appearance record has been brilliant for us, especially when you consider the physical exertion that he commits to every game. His training is very good. He's been exceptional in every way. So to lose him, and he's a pivotal figure for us, is going to be a big miss. But we have big players that can fill his shoes as well. So whoever I choose in that position, I think we've got quality players coming in.
And how do you balance that need to pick as strong a team as you possibly can, but also maybe give minutes to players who need it? Because you've had a lot of games recently, there are a lot more coming up, and the changes you made on Saturday were made probably quite late in the game as well, and it was another big physical effort.
Yeah, it was, but I think you ask any player, and I will ask every player how they are physically, they'll all say they're fine to play. There'll be no issues. So the player's desire is always to play, and we have to try and pick the best players physically for the game. It's a massive game for us, we're under no illusions how big this game is for us this season. So I think part of our strength recently has been the fact that we have been consistent with the team selection, so let's see what we do.
Final one, League Cup semi-finals are played over 2 legs. There is, curiously, a wait of about 4 or 5 weeks until the second leg at home. But do you like the fact that you have 2 goes at this, or would you prefer it to be a one-off, not whether it's at home or away? Is a one-off semi-final better, do you think?
I'll tell you after the first game. I don't know, I think it's quite an interesting dynamic. I quite like it. But I think that this is an important game for us. I think this sets up what's going to happen afterwards. We need to be at our absolute best. This is a high-level game, a lot at stake for both teams. We need to be ready.
Thanks, Reza. Keith?
Eddie, you say that it's a high-level game, massive game. With the run that you're on right now, the confidence that's going through the team, what that then does is heightens the sort of belief of the support that you can get to the final, you can go all the way. Is that something that the players are gonna have to deal with?
I think emotionally, we 2 big highs in recent games, the Manchester United win and the Tottenham win. They're big results for us. But I've seen a really good reaction to those wins. Nothing too excitable from us, which is great. I think we need to become accustomed to playing in big games like this. So I've seen a really sort of level response emotionally, and it's just on now to the next one, which is, of course, the Arsenal game, and we look forward to it.
And you're obviously missing Bruno for this first leg, but your midfield three, or the three that you've chosen over the last few games, they've been getting a lot of credit externally. I've heard a few people saying that, arguably the best midfield three in the Premier League at this moment in time. Would you go along with that?
I'm not watching every Premier League game, so it's a difficult one to comment on. I love the three players we have in there at the moment. I love the three players that aren't in there at the moment as well, that we have within the squad. So I think it's a strong area for us at the moment. I think they're performing very well. I think they're building really good relationships with each other, and that's why losing Bruno from that trio will be a disruption. Doesn't mean necessarily negative for us, but a disruption to the normal rhythm and how we've played in recent games. I think the biggest compliment I can pay them all is what they're giving us, not just in possession, which I think is the easier side of the game, but off the ball I think they've been excellent. They've helped us defend lots of different situations really well, and I think they're highly intelligent players, delivering and playing well.
Yeah, I think it was a stat. I think I saw a match the day afterwards that your three midfielders were the top three in terms of their output, out of possession, the ground covered across both teams in that game, which I think just says everything about what they're putting in.
Yeah, I think they're very good athletes, and they're aware of the importance off the ball. Sometimes you can get really good technical players that's almost a secondary thought, and they're not really interested. But I think the great thing about those three players is they all recognise that the team needs to perform in both phases of play. But they are very good on the ball as well, and they've brought a calmness and a composure to our build-up play, which I think from this moment hopefully will only improve as well. I think we can get better in that respect. But I've been really pleased with how they've formed their way of working. In
Alexander Isak, you've got a striker who's in red-hot form at the moment, scored in his last 7 games. Is he entering the field right now expecting to score? Do you get that vibe from him?
Yeah, I think he will naturally. I think when you're on the run of goal-scoring games that he is, I think you go in with a different viewpoint than if you're not. I think the team, most importantly, is creating for him as well. I don't think this is him doing it on his own. I think the team's playing in a really good way that's creating chances not just for Alex but for other players as well. We're seeing goals come from different aspects of the team. So I think when you go on the run that we've gone on, you wouldn't be doing that if it was just down to one player. So Alex is playing his part in that by finishing the moves off, but delighted with how the team's creating them for him.
Just finally from me, one on transfers, if you don't mind. There was a report in Saudi Arabia over the last sort of 24, 48 hours that Martin Dubravka may be allowed to leave after the Arsenal game. I know you spoke about him on Friday, and you said that you need to sort of respect his wishes in this whole situation. Is there any truth to that? Has there been anything that's changed since we spoke at the weekend? No,
we're just concentrating on the games. I think massive game against Tottenham now, massive game very quickly against Arsenal. There's no talk of anything else other than the matches. Thank you.
Thanks, Keith. Nisha?
Morning, Eddie.
Morning.
You said to Ray that you quite like the dynamic of the two legs, but how much does it change your approach? Because I guess obviously you want to win, but the most important thing is putting yourself in a position to win that second leg.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's you could talk about the dynamic of the two games at length, but the reality is we're just playing another game. We're playing an 11v11 game for 90 minutes away from home, and we've got to do all the same things that we've been doing well in recent games. We've got to be really good off the ball. We've got to be solid defensively. We've got to pose Arsenal problems the other way. So I think as long as we get that mix right, I don't think we should overthink it. Let's try and continue the good performances we've given and give our absolute best to try and win the game.
I think you were asked something similar at the weekend about what's been the difference with this fantastic run that you've been on, because the win against Spurs was very different to the win against Man U. How is this team finding ways to win but also absorb the pressure that Tottenham put you under as well, particularly in that second half?
Well, I think every Premier League game is so different. The tactical side of the game, Manchester United to Tottenham, they're two very different teams, and you need to adapt to both teams. So they're going to be different games. Conceding early was a massive blow in the game, a great response from the group. To score so soon afterwards and to come back and win away from home isn't easy, especially against a team the quality of Tottenham. So I just think every game we take independently. The Arsenal game now will be totally different again. So we're going to have to adjust and adapt and try and find a way to win.
Does the proximity of two trips to North London very close together coming back in between, has that had much of an impact on you and the players?
No, I think we're used to it. I think the travelling aspect is something you become accustomed to. I mean, I think we had to do that a lot, of course, last season in the Champions League, and getting used to that. I mean, obviously it's not out of the country, it's minimal travel really for us, and we travel well, so I'd expect that not to have an impact.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nisha. We'll start with Damien. Would you like to start?
Hi Eddie, how do you think your team has developed since you got to the final of this competition 2 seasons ago?
Developed since?
Yeah.
I think we've come a long way since then. I think I was asked a question recently about the Champions League season and the team then, and I haven't watched a game back from that season for a long time. So sometimes your memory plays tricks with you in terms of what you delivered. But I remember that team then being very solid defensively. Obviously, we had a couple of different players in there as well, so I think naturally that changes the dynamic. But I think we've come a long way. I think our game's evolved. I certainly think we've evolved quite a bit tactically since then. Game moves on very quickly in the Premier League. I say it all the time. Probably month by month it changes slightly, so you have to change with it. So I think we've seen quite a consistent changing in certain aspects of what we do.
You've spoken in the past about part of this project being sort of to convince your big players that they can fulfil their dreams here. Do you think they're starting to believe that again?
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, I think it's a difficult question for me to answer. I think the players are always the better ones to. I can't answer on their behalf, but I think they seem happy at the moment. The group seems in a good place, coming in, training well. There's a positive vibe about the group. Of course, we have big games and we're doing well in the big games at the moment, so I think naturally that brings a good feeling to what we're doing. But I think that it's a two-way thing. Of course, we have to provide the right conditions for the players and try and give them the right structure within the team for them to play well and enjoy their football. But of course, they have to do their part and they have to play well, and they certainly are at the moment.
Thanks, Damien. We'll go Luke and then Craig, please.
Morning.
Morning, Luke.
One of your sort of standout quotes, one of your rare standout quotes, some would say, was that you're not here to be popular or liked, you're here to compete. Do you think this team's got that kind of mentality again at the minute? Because you seem to be ruffling feathers everywhere you go at the moment.
Ruffling feathers. We certainly want to be competitive. I mean, I think I've said many times, I don't remember saying that quote.
Definitely said it.
I'm sure I said it, but I don't remember saying it. And it certainly wasn't sort of meant to be a standout line, but I'm pleased some people liked it, because for me that's absolutely where we need to be. The competitive side of our game has to be there regardless of the opponent, regardless of the competition. We are here to try and win, and that is ultimately what we're driven for. The popular stuff, I mean, I don't really care what happens outside of Newcastle. The perception other teams have of us, it doesn't really worry me. It's all about us and making sure we're happy with who we are and happy with how we're performing.
That leads quite nicely on to my second team. What's this group like to manage as a bunch of characters? I think it's a great group of people. I enjoy coming in every day. I'm very proud to represent them. Of course, you always have good and bad moments. And I think when you're managing a team of, I'm talking the players here, just the players alone, 30 players, there's always going to be difficult moments to navigate.
But I think they're very respectful generally and very humble as well, want to learn and get better. So I really enjoy the day-to-day interactions that I have with them.
I presume this, as when you came to Newcastle, this was the kind of games you wanted to see more regularly. This is your second semi-final in 3 years. You must be pleased that you're adding that kind of level of expectation where you get to these stages in competitions.
Yeah, very much so. I think the big games are what we train for, and that's what everything you do during your playing career is to try and reach the pinnacle and experience the biggest games and the best competitions. Now, the Champions League for us was an unbelievable experience. We'd love to get back there again. But it's very much the same with the Carabao Cup final, which was I think looking back was a great experience, but the experience ultimately was a negative one. So we want to, if we can, try and go back there and end up with a different result.
Thank you.
Craig?
Morning, Eddie. From a coach's perspective, this game, it was kind of different 2 years ago in Southampton because you went into it as favourites. Do you see tomorrow night as 90 minutes or 45? Do you have to have a different approach whereby you've got that second leg in mind? Or do you just go there, you play your 4-3-3, your attacking principles, or do you do something different?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I think for us, I think we're at our best when we just see the game and we don't overthink things. I think there's a danger that you can tie yourself into knots. Second guessing yourself, really. It's a game of football. It's 90 minutes. Yes, of course, that'll only be half time and we'll have a second chance regardless of the outcome. But I think a positive approach, seeing us play our way, I think is our best chance of getting a positive result.
2 weeks ago when you went into fifth, we sat here and we spoke about the project and things which can make those top players stay here, and we agreed on Champions League football would no doubt help. With regard to Cup as well and silverware, how important is that in sending a message to those big players already at the club and potential targets outside, just ending that run and bringing back a trophy?
Yeah, I think it would no doubt help us in every respect, whether that's whatever angle you want to take. But we can't concern ourselves with that. And the outcomes, it's all about, right, now we have Arsenal and that's hard enough. So all our focus is going on to Tuesday's game and then we'll put it to bed and focus on the FA Cup.
We've got Ian and then Lee.
Morning. Bruno, as you said, has been a near ever present for since you've been here, since he arrived. Is it a simple case of bringing in a replacement and asking to replicate the role, or do you need to alter the midfield's dynamic?
I laugh because almost trying to find someone to play like Bruno, that's not easy. But I do understand the direction of the question. But no two players are alike, and you have to look at the player that you bring in and try and get him to play to the best of his ability, suiting his style, really. So, no, I've got no doubt that it would be a slight change for us to be without Bruno. Only he can do what he does. But that doesn't mean it can't be effective for the team, whatever change we make. So we'll have to try and look at that and find the right balance to the team again, because the balance, I think, has been so good in the last few games. That's why we've executed what we have. So getting the balance of the team again with a new player coming in or potential new players coming in is something we'll have to look at closely.
And in your own mind, do you know who will replace him, or is it a very tight call between one or two players?
No, it's a tight call. I think we have probably 3 or 4 options that I could look at to do that. I think I've got a pretty good idea in my own mind which way I'll go, but it is a tight call.
Eddie, on the captain thing, I mean, you've got Kieran Trippier in the dressing room anyway, regardless of who you pick. How important is his experience going to be, given all them big finals and Euro semi-finals he's had with England, etc.?
Yeah, I think we have a few players that have those credentials. Trips is a player that always lends his experience to every moment that we're in. I mean, he was a little bit ill before the Tottenham game, but he was absolutely first class during the game, helping players before the game, during the game, and afterwards. First class professional. So he's been excellent the last few weeks, coming back into the team and playing as well as he has. But he always helps, and I think there's 3 or 4 others that have got those big game experiences that will naturally help as well. But I think ultimately, as a group, I think we're pretty experienced now. I think I don't look at that as a weakness. So I expect us to be ready for what's ahead.
On Lewis Miley, I mean, last season he had a dream season, getting all those firsts. This season, obviously, he's going to have to fight his way into the team. Have you had any sort of chats with him to try and reassure him that his opportunity will come along?
Yes, I have, of course. Regular contact with Louis. I think he's in a good place. He's come back from his injury and he's looked good. He's trained now for a long period of time. He's building that robustness that only training for that length can give you. He's ready to play, I'd say. I'd have no concerns about putting him into the team. He's got that big game experience that you're talking about. He's played in the Champions League at some really tough grounds and done very well. So he's a valuable member of the squad.
And just on transfers, do you find yourself in a position where you're having to talk about football logic to some of the people around you, or does the business logic have to come in because of the PSR and an unpopular departure might have to happen this month?
Yeah, I think the business logic is taking over from the football logic. I think that will be the way for not just for us, but for lots and lots of clubs, because there may be football decisions you'd like to make, and nothing I'd think will be bigger than the previous summer where we had to lose 2 highly promising young players. We were forced to. We had no choice. So that was very much the business taking over the football, and I think we're still in that position to a degree.
Thanks, Lee. We'll go Martin and then Chris.
Morning, Eddie.
Morning, Martin.
A lot was made after your 0-0 at Arsenal in 2023. There was criticism of your tactics at the time. Did that frustrate you back then?
Just trying to think back. No, I don't think so. As I said, I think we reflect a lot and analyse a lot of what we do tactically. It's a massive part of the game now. So I think when you get a positive result like we did that night, I think it was a good, really good defensive performance. Maybe not so much attacking wise, but defensively outstanding. We did a lot right to get that draw. And then, of course, we consult with the people that we think matter, and then the outside opinion is almost irrelevant to us.
And a difficult question, but is there any irony at all that Arsenal seem prepared to embrace more or less anything in their desire to win the Premier League this season?
What Arsenal do is absolutely up to them, and we know that this is going to be a really difficult game for us, so I've got full respect for them.
And can you say what you're prepared to do or what you're prepared to give to win a trophy here?
Well, we give everything. I can guarantee that. There'll be no stone left unturned in terms of our preparation and hopefully the execution from the players. So, yeah, we'll do everything we can within the rules to try and achieve that.
Chris?
Morning.
Morning.
One player who could come into midfield for Bruno is Joe Willock, and obviously a former Arsenal player. He's had his injury problems over the last 18 months, 2 years. Where is he at physically? And I mean, at the weekend he even ended the game at centre forward for you as well, so a bit of a different role for him.
Yeah, I thought he did really well when he came on Saturday. I was really pleased. It was a moment in the game. I think it was quite a bit of time left with the extra time, and Alex was physically done. So I needed someone that I could trust tactically to play a certain role. We asked him to do a real job for the team for, I don't know, however long he was on with extra time. He did it brilliantly. And he showed his sort of understanding of the game is at a really high level. I think Joe is probably in his best condition than he's been for a long time. He's been able, again, to stay fit and train for a long period of time, which he hasn't had for so long. He's had very stop-to-start time, different injuries, different problems. But I'd say he's an undoubted game changer for us. He's got brilliant physical capabilities. He's got a goal in him. He's creative. So Joe Willock at his best is a great asset for us to have. And yes, I'm of course aware of the Arsenal connections for him, but he's just a great player in his own right.
And you've spoken quite a bit about Jacob Murphy and the impact that he's made in the team. I mean, that combination with him and Alexander Isak, he seems to be laying on a lot of goals for him. He seems to almost be a throwback in terms of being quite direct as a winger, in terms of getting to the byline and whipping crosses in. How different a dynamic does he bring to the team?
Well, he's a old-fashioned in the sense that he's a right-footed player playing on the right-hand side, which I think is a good dynamic for us. probably Jacob's standout quality is his crossing ability. Very good, whether it's high crosses, low crosses. He's got that ability to drive in field and then take the line and produce for us. And Alex has been the beneficiary of that on a number of occasions this season. But not only that with Jacob, I think tactically he's got a really high level understanding of what the game needs. So we've asked him to do lots of various roles defensively. He's delivered them absolutely brilliantly for us. So very underrated in that respect.
Thanks, Chris. We've got Mark at the back and then Dom, please.
Morning, Eddie.
Morning.
The mood around the club is probably as high as it's been for maybe 12, 15 months. Is there a real feeling around the club that you can do something really special in 2025?
Yeah, I'd say the mood around the club, if you're talking the training ground for us, which is, of course, where we spend most of our time, has always been pretty consistent. It's been good. Staff here are very, very good, very positive people. The players have always been positive, and even when results weren't so good and perceived negative responses around everything, the players were very good. I had no issues with sort of our general feeling. Of course, it helps when you win, and that gives you a natural boost. So the players, I'd say, are in a good place at the moment. But we know we take nothing for granted. Every game, we approach the same way.
You mentioned there a little bit about transfers. That the market's been fairly quiet. I think you mentioned a couple of months ago that you thought it could be another very quiet January. Is it going as you'd expected it? Is though the vibes that you're getting from the market that it's going to be another quiet one?
Yeah, of course, I'm not on the front line, so I'm not necessarily speaking to agents and sort of getting the interactions and the feeling that other people at the club would have a far better understanding of that. But yeah, I don't think it's taking too many turns away from what I thought the reality would be. But that's not to say that anything is cut and dried, because the transfer market, like anything, can be unpredictable. It might just take one big move somewhere that sets a chain reaction off. So we're ready for anything. We're able to, I think, be flexible.
Just finally from me as well, Sandro's performances have been so consistent and consistently excellent since he's come into the team. I mean, can you just give us an idea or a flavour of how he is? He seems a very level guy. It doesn't seem like he sort of has these peaks and troughs, but his performances have been so good, like somewhat kind of what he brings to the team and his kind of emotional.
Yeah, I mean, I said this many times last year when people would ask me about how he was handling the difficult situation that he was in, and I said you wouldn't really know. He's just very level. He's just a very good professional. He trained brilliantly last year, and he's exactly the same character that you saw in that difficult moment now, and I think that's a great compliment to him, because he's very focused on the future. He's very focused on being at his best, delivering what the team needs, and I think you can see that in his performances. He's bang on with the small details. He's bang on with helping the team defend, and then of course his obvious qualities, technical qualities, come out, and the way the midfield's played, he's been a huge role in that. Delighted with how he's come into the team and how confident he looks at the moment.
Morning, Eddie.
Morning.
VAR is in place tomorrow night's game for the first time in the competition this season. There's a trial of referees announcing decisions in the stadium. Do you welcome that change and that increased transparency, or have you almost enjoyed not having VAR in the previous rounds?
Yeah, I think it's interesting, because the Brentford game, which is the last round, was the Brentford game the last round? Yeah. So many games. I think I enjoyed not having VAR in that moment, and that's because we scored goals and you saw the linesman flag stay down and you think that's a goal. You're not sort of second guessing, because the first thing that I think now when we score is there a reason for that goal not to stand, which takes away the enjoyment of the moment, really. So that's the world that I live in. So when you don't have it and you score, obviously it's a different feeling. But if you don't have it and you concede, then again I might be thinking the other way. So it's, I don't know. I'm still of the train of thought. I like the initial raw emotion you get when you score without VAR.
Yeah, and just on injuries with Nick Pope, is there any update on his situation, and could he be back for your next Premier League game?
Yeah, Nick's following the track that he was on. There's been no setback. He's on track for, I think it was 6 weeks when he needed the injury initially, I think, roughly. Yeah, he's doing well. I'm sort of not in regular contact. Haven't seen him for a couple of days, so I'll see how he is today.
Thanks, Tom. We've got Kieran and then Jordan to wrap up, please.
Morning, Eddie.
Morning.
You got, as mentioned, a bit spiky a couple of years ago at the Emirates, to the point where you were even standing up for your team on the touchline. Do you want to see that side from your team again tomorrow?
I think you always have to stand up for each other, as long as it's in a controlled way. Don't want us to lose discipline in any way. And I think we've been pretty good with that this season. There's a line, I think, in terms of your behaviour that you don't want to cross. Don't want to be reckless. But I think we have to be strong and resolute and definitely protect each other on the pitch. And off the pitch, you know, in terms of our conduct, it's got to be, again, strong and resolute, but not reckless.
And Newcastle, I think, have only won once at the Emirates. Is this a chance for you to make history? You know, it seems the team don't travel in fear to these grounds anymore.
Yeah, I think, well, aware that, you know, there's certain records that we need to do better in, and that's obviously one that we're not, we haven't done well historically, so we'd love to change that. But yeah, we can't talk about it, we've got to deliver it.
Mona, you just thought on Emil Kraft, there's a chance he could be back tomorrow?
He's getting closer. He's done, again, Crafty's done a lot of work. The type of injury that he had meant that he could run quite early. He could do everything other than the sort of the physical contact. So he's super fit. But we just need the bone to heal before he can take that contact again.
In Sven play on the right side of that defence on Saturday, could we see more of that going forward, or do you prefer that right foot, left foot balance at the back?
Well, I spent most of my career playing on the left as a right footer, so I'm not adverse to utilising players in that position, because I think it all depends on the player and his ability and how comfortable he is to do it. I think Sven has the capabilities of playing there long term, because I think he's actually got a very strong right foot, although you don't see it a lot when he plays on the left. He's technically good with both feet. I think it's just a new dynamic for him, and I think it will take a little bit of time before he understands the angles, having not done it for a long time. But I'm not averse to anything that I think makes the team stronger.